Good afternoon and welcome back to our next session of Stag's Con Seneschal Meeting Room. We've been having some great conversations all day long and we're just about to wrap things up. This is supposed to be our 3:30 to 4:30 closing thing on general question and answer. What can the kingdom do for you to help your group thrive? Once again, these classes are being recorded to be posted later on, so please keep that in mind as you have these general discussions. Also, this is an official SCA event, so all general rules on being chivalric, being polite, no bullying, etc., all of those are in play. Thank you very much for joining us, and I return you to your regular scheduled instructors.
All right, we've got one more discussion group. This is an open question and answer for how can we help your group thrive. We don't have a whole ton of people, so maybe or maybe not. We've been pretty chatty. We might get through this hour. Again, I am the King of Seneschal. My name is Sir Christine. I will be in this position for one more month. And Mistress Aldith will be taking over after me. So, Mistress Aldith, will you please introduce yourself?
Mistress Aldith, the following, Deb Hammonds.
Real quick, we'll do a quick recap of the question we were discussing earlier, which we felt was worth recording. Mistress Aldith, do you want to recap?
As far as reporting and things, or just reporting from the general point of view of all the things that's on your report. What I really want to see is all the things, not just some of the things. And it's okay if you name names, because every once in a while, I mean, we're all seneschals, and once in a while, if there's especially if it's an issue, someone might have an idea on how to mitigate whatever that issue is. And then again, if it's an attaboy, everybody needs the attaboy. Is there another thing I'm reporting that I needed to do, Christine?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it was we. I wish I hadn't stopped the discussion now because I'm blanking out. Batu, thank you.
So I'm just going to do a small recap of what might be considered some softball questions that came up throughout the day, just to make sure that we capture them here in the question and answer session. Number one, and this is for Mistress Aldrith. Hey, I'm thinking about running an event. Are there any documents or guides that would be able to help me plan for this event?
Oh, good. Lots. I do believe that we will be having an event handbook shortly. And Kingdom, Master Joffrey has an event handbook that he is ready to post out. He had indicated to me at Gulf Wars that he was going to wait until I took the office for some crazy reason to do, but we'll see what that looks like. But yes, all of us need a kind of an event handbook to look at, rather than, oh yes, I need to go through the service portal and do all those things. But it'll also give us a very detailed checklist of the things that'll help us have a good event.
And for those of you who are wondering, just another small sales pitch, we did have a beautiful discussion on the Outlands service portal, how to submit your events, how to work through warrants, and how to do reporting. So please check those other videos. They're full of great information. Another pitch that came up earlier, and this is, of course, the eternal question that happens probably at each Pell Circle and each officer meeting. Best ways to recruit, best ways to get more people interested. And we had questions about how can you get the word out about promoting to an opening for deputies, whether it's at a kingdom level or at a local level. Mrs. Christine, can you recap some of the things we learned today about where you can advertise for
Right.
deputies?
Thank you. So today we discussed where to advertise for deputies, and at the local level, we highly recommend you using your local newsletter and webpage. Additionally, at the kingdom level, we can advertise at the Kingdom Help Wanted section on the webpage and in the OH or the Outlandish Herald. Folks need to try to remember that when they are looking to step down, it is preferable that they give 6 months notice. In fact, that is now kingdom law, and it will be a requirement moving forward.
And also remember that there are not necessarily term limits, but we do ask for about a 2-year commitment. You can extend it longer than that with certain requirements, and you can take a break and return to that same position should you so desire. There are no total limits on how many years you can serve in any particular role at this time, despite some of the myths that have been going out and about. Um, Recruiting. Another great opportunity that was brought up during most of this is please understand that everyone here, all of the officers, are happy to discuss with you. And if you're interested in maybe having a meet and greet or a job fair, either at a local event or at Battlemore, please reach out to us. We're looking for ways to increase and dispel the myths created by these question and answer sessions, since we know sometimes they can be a little intimidating if you don't think you have a question, but everyone here is very, very polite and willing to answer your questions. I think that's most of what we covered that are sprinkled throughout the classes. So I do believe at this point in time we will open the floor to any questions. You can either feel free to raise your hand, type in the chat, or as small as this group is, if you just have a question, please feel free to ask. Thank you. While people mull over that particular question, let me ask this question that I'm sure Kingdom Social Media isn't trying to give me daggers to ask. What is your opinion on today's format and actually having a digital
Thank you.
Stags Con?
Thank you.
Awesome. I'll say awesome, awesome. Although we kind of got used to the digital format things during COVID because we couldn't be in person for doing all kinds of stuff. And we can certainly continue to do this. I'd like to do some in-person ones, even if it's just encouraging maybe a Seneschal Stag Con at something and let the other kingdom officers muck up another event.
We're doing every other year kind of thing because this
Mhm.
is so handy for the months I have coming up with all the traveling I'm going to have to be doing. This is so helpful.
Yeah, the only downside was I believe it was last year when we were down in Pueblo. I don't have the Irish pub to go to for dinner, but I have Guinness in my fridge, so I covered for it.
I think we looked it
Yeah,
up and it was in 2024 actually when we were down in Pueblo, so it's been a little bit more than a year.
See,
Yeah.
at my age, you lose track.
well, and
I like the
go
sorry.
ahead.
I like the online because like honestly my mundane job I'm not able to travel anywhere near what I used to. You know, if I go outside of 2 hours of Colorado Springs, it's problematic. So, you know, I don't get to go to the Kingdom events like I used to. So, actually getting to talk with you guys and pick your brain and stuff
So
virtually
this is quite
is a
helpful
big
because we had
benefit.
quite a few people express um,
Negative.
disappointment with an online forum, seeing as how it can at different times be difficult to get your questions in before you forget them, or get the time limits are a bit more stricter enforced, and how people prefer in-person stuff. So having some input on this direction is also useful. The idea had been floated of do in person but have a PC in each room so that you could have a meeting joined as well, but for various reasons that's a little bit more difficult. The flip side is that here we can record things and post it all online, so if you're in this meeting but you wanted to see something about the Exchequer stuff, once we get it all edited and put up, you'll be able to go and join that, whereas the in-person wouldn't. Um, we've heard from both sides, so hearing more input is fantastic, and thank you for bringing it up, Batu.
Well, and yeah, I really appreciate that. I personally, and this is me,
You're
and
muted,
this is why
Kristen.
No, she wasn't.
Nope.
We could hear
why I have been a champion for virtual meetings is I really don't like taking my event time and my travel time to do a meeting. I think in-person meetings really are necessary for some people. And like we talked about earlier, we've got all kinds of volunteers, we've got all kinds of personalities. We're just trying to make things work for folks. I think a hybrid system, like you mentioned, Matthias, would be very difficult. But I think for those of us who like the technology, once in a while it would be good to have, or maybe every other time. Um, Another thing I would like to throw out to the group, perhaps, is to frequently have shorter virtual Stags cons to get out those shorter sound bites, hit the needs at the time, get some training, because we do have constant turnover of officers. And then maybe once a year or once every other year, have an in-person one for those people that really want that in-person thing. That's something to think about, and I'd like to hear what people think.
I think saying that we like technology is a big ask right there, or a big shift on terms. We're able to use it. The benefit of most of the Outlands things, although they might conflict with a local event, for example, Alberon has a cleanup day today. They usually have a practice today, so sometimes getting people to attend on a Sunday when they'd rather go to the local thing might be difficult, but most of the time events are either on a Saturday or a Sunday. So picking one to have that and maybe not call it a Stags Con, but and might not even be kingdom level, but you could probably propagate a Seneschal meeting or these different kinds of meetings. And if you schedule them every 6 months or once a year and then have the big Stags Con, you can go through that. I do believe the heavier lift on this one from some of the discussions was just getting enough volunteers to run the different rooms and do those kinds of things. So having your big Stags Con is a little bit more difficult. Having the in-person ones can go good, but you could also say, hey, at Battlemore, give us an hour just for all of the Seneschals to have a meeting, and maybe tie that in with the other idea of the meet the Seneschals. So you have that meeting then, and then you go to a lunch where you then open it to the populace, so everyone's on the same page. You did all the major announcements on that talking point, and they're dedicating 2 hours of an event versus the entire event kind of thing. The other target would also be coronations, since more than likely quite a few of the seneschals try to travel to those. Just an idea from my side.
I think for having something where, we've talked about the difficulty of getting volunteers. Meetings are no one's favorite thing. More people are going to show up if it's virtual than if they have to get in their car and drive an hour or 2 or 8. Just is what it is.
Well, that was always the fun thing, trying to convince the goaliest college students that they should go to a Stags Con where all they're going to do is sit in meetings to talk about this instead of doing anything fun when they're a college student that has to ration gas. And then, especially if it's in Colorado or even if it's more than 3 hours away, it's difficult to get people to go. So the online might be beneficial in that way.
I also know
Yeah.
the factor of I know our shire is kind of like middle of the kingdom, but our kingdom is very long. So if you were like, say, all the way down in El Paso, trying to get all the way up to the top of Colorado is a endeavor.
And
Well, and
Colorado isn't even the furthest north, as I've now met people from
Exactly.
further than there.
Yep.
And we don't want it to be the meeting that could have been an email for all of us who are
right.
those
So
things. Yeah.
something to keep in mind, we do have our monthly Seneschal meetings, and they've been fairly well attended, and they have great participation. But I don't know how much training we've done in them. Another option would be maybe to have a monthly training. I don't know. I'm not a big
meetings a
fan of
month, that's
making
getting
virtual
hard.
meetings, right? And
What if
that's
you did a Seneschal meeting with a topic and
right.
spend half of it on topic and the other half Q&A? still be an hour.
Yeah, I think that
And
might be something.
you or Aldith pick the topic.
Or potentially do a quarterly training. So it's not every meeting, but is occurring on a regular schedule.
Or something where we find in a meeting that all of a sudden more than one group is having a particular issue that we need training on. We can then schedule the next month to have the training on that.
Yep.
Matthias?
So one of the things that we've started to float the idea of is to have a quarterly catch-up meeting for those who can't make it. Any of you who have been in the Seneschal meetings know that we don't have 19 Seneschals plus the case and show up to all those meetings. So we've had some that, the Monday, maybe they got, kids soccer practices on Mondays and kids got to take priority over this game and stuff like that, or, it doesn't work out. So they can't make those meetings. So we're looking at having periodic meetings to kind of get them caught up on what they may have missed. It would not be a second monthly meeting, it'd be like a quarterly meeting. So if you have any input on that, or anyone who might be interested in that sort of thing, but they might not be here, so let them know and get back to us on what might work. We're currently looking at like a Friday or a Saturday sometime in May or June. That's what we're aiming for, but nothing is on paper yet. We're just bouncing ideas at this point.
Okay.
So overall, it sounds like everyone in this meeting group actually, and I mean, we had most of the same people here all day long, did appreciate being able to have this forum, go over these topics, and do it virtually so that they didn't have to travel or spend too much. So it sounds like the Seneschals were happy with this. Now, I'm not trying to be devil's advocate, now go, immediately from online to in person, but we did have the conversation about trying to have a meet and greet slash job fair slash that kind of thing. And since that seemed to be a popular topic during the time, does Battlemore seem like the logical time to try and have that since we'd have most of the kingdom? Would you rather aim for a crown tournament or coronation? Since the goal is to try and introduce to the general public, anyone have any ideas on that kind of job fair? I forget the other term that was used to kind of sit down like and have a lunch with the seneschals kind of thing.
So just as a quick thought to throw in there, depending on how quick you might want to set this up or how quick you'd be able to set it up, Grand Outlandish is even sooner than Battlemore. Not as many people show up, but it gets a good chunk of the southern half. And then we also have Kingdom ANS, Collegium in Unserhofen in September is currently on the calendar as a tentative, but is another option if you wanted to try to split south and north.
Well, being as Battlemore is also a larger event, I think some of the things, those of us who are peers, have enough peer circles on our brain where we miss parts of events because the crown just, just calls us, and it is a meeting. So trying to put Seneschal's meet and greet even for an hour or so might be a little more onerous to take out on a shorter event. So something that is longer like Battlemore. And that Battlemore is generally central. I mean, those of us from up here go down there, and other than El Paso, going to the Albuquerque ones, and it's about the same thing. And it's a longer thing, so we can see on a day where maybe not a lot is happening, or a time where not a lot is happening. You could see about that. I mean, just for me, it seems that would be great. Those of people who are on here who don't have to worry about period circles, in courts things, it's not as much of a thing for them. Although sometimes if there's fighting going on in an event, just like they always grump about there's too much to do and I have to choose what I want to do, I don't really want to have an hour or so to tell the seneschals, hey, you got to come and meet at this event and not do your things. So I'm more thinking that something that's a multi-day thing and something shorter, might be something more acceptable.
Because you can aim for the thankfully small events that don't have period circles since they aren't consistent all the time. You do have the interesting thing of you also have Outlands 40 year coming up. And then it's also the idea on if you wanted to just do the Seneschals or if you wanted to try and get more of the different officers and positions there. So it is a job fair around the whole thing to try and do that. But since there was discussion earlier, and to me, the biggest problem with all things is getting the commitment to attend. Theoretically, you could have one or two seneschals sit the booth. You don't need everyone there. So if you have someone that's available to do that, that's fantastic. And Battlemore, the bigger problem with it, with all things scheduled, Battlemore is there's never a good time because it's always, well, is it too early where no one's there yet? Is it too late to where it's conflicting with all the major tournaments and getting ready for the courts and all the other stuff? So picking your time. So I was just trying to do the question to the group since we had a good group here. What are your opinions on what might be good events? Because I didn't even consider, instead of aiming for one, just split it to north and south, or if every local seneschal just says, "Hey, it's Alberon, ANS Day. I'm gonna be sitting over here with a little sign that says, 'Come talk to your seneschal,' and just invite people to come over," or something like
Well,
that.
I think that the come talk to your Seneschal idea, if folks are interested and have time, it's a great idea. I've seen that work and I've seen it not work. The big thing is, the more important thing is, we want to find ways for our Seneschals to get the training they need. And to kind of, since Kingdom Law and Corpora changes fairly regularly within the term of a Seneschal, to have the most up-to-date information, because you are that corporate representative. You really need to stay on top of Kingdom Law and Corpora. So I think it's more keep for the Seneschals anyway. I'm just saying the Seneschals, keeping up to date on training and what is really the best route. In the past, we had very little training. When I was a local Seneschal, I had zero training. We could go to Stag's Con in person if we wanted to. I don't remember it ever being a requirement. Frequently, we didn't go. Some people do. It just depends on what people want to do. But now we have a lot of different tools. I think Stag's Con in person does seem to really interest some people. I do think that, the folks that we have on here today, I appreciate their interest, their enthusiasm, and their attention. It's been really good. It's been a good day. But we need to find ways to make sure all the Seneschals have at least the tools they need. So I'm kind of open ears. I mean, maybe we need to bring this up on the next Seneschal meeting as to how folks want their training.
If it helps, I tend to be pretty good at like writing documentation with like screenshot, through each thing, if that would be useful to have on hand. Because I know some people also, I personally mainline audiobooks, so I don't want to have to pause my audiobook to watch a video. And I know other people are the same way, or they want to be able to reference something as they're doing it. But is that a useful way for people to learn? Like, would that be helpful?
I think everybody's a little different. Everybody has different ways of learning. I think it might be.
I think one way to gauge it might be to see here in the next month or two if there's a way to count it or quantify it, how many people are looking at the videos that we made today.
Yeah.
Just we're going to put them up and how they are to see if anyone at all is accessing the training that we had versus just wanting to ask questions and do the other things. And to do that, we probably need to market the fact that these videos from Stag's Con are up there, and then say, watch the videos, and if you have questions after that, get a hold of the officer specific, for learning those things. That might be a way to see if that's a good venue. In other words, if we make videos or audios or whatever it is that we do of certain things, it might be a good way to gauge how many people might participate. Because it's a lot of stuff to, yes, we've recorded it all this today, and they're going to be putting it up all there today. But if they're not going to get a lot of use, then it's not that I want to say it's not a good thing for them to do, because I think it's important. But we need a little bit better validation that what we're doing is useful.
Well, that, and I think that's a great idea. I don't know if it's possible, Matthias, but I also think it's good to gauge, based on the effort and all the energy put into this, how much it is used. I really feel like I don't want to waste anybody's resources, because we're all volunteers and time is precious.
How much do you want to learn about YouTube right now? Short answer or long answer? Just short. Okay, short answer is we can see the view counts and we can see when the views for the most part occurred. General rule of thumb, if it's something like this, it's probably going to get less than 20 views within the first couple months, and then it might factor in somewhere around 50 over the course of a few years. People will be aware of it and then see it, and then they will forget about it. And because we can pin to a certain degree, the fact of the matter is that we've had something along the lines of 25 classes going today. If we try to pin 25 classes, it's going to get ignored. So
yeah, and that's a good point. And honestly, 20 views in a few months would be great. I think we need to keep our expectations reasonable. I also think that the videos, I don't know if you keep those archived, but honestly, like there ought to be some way to say this is out of date after, say, 6 months to a year, because it'll be out of date. The information does go bad.
After a video is posted, you can edit the title and the description. So we can say, we're leaving this up for the sake of historical reference, but in the meantime, this video is no longer up to date. And then if we have one to replace it, we can edit that in the description and link in the new one if we have one.
Fabulous. That's great.
Silly question. Can you put the put a hot link on the Kingdom page that links those things directly to the YouTube video without embedding something?
Kingdom page, are you talking about Facebook and Discord, or are you talking about the website?
Well, at this point, mostly the website.
That's web ministry.
Okay. But that's something maybe if we talk to them about, you guys are okay with linking the YouTube video to the website.
Well, the YouTube channel is already linked from the website. Having a place to post it on the website would probably be under resources somewhere, but that'd be up to them.
Okay.
It would also, as you were just saying, if video is getting replaced, we'd have to get with them and tell them to update the link every time it gets replaced. And depending on what website platform they're using on the backend scripting, could get very frustrating for them very quickly, depending on how fast we're going through videos. But again, that's web, not us.
It might also be possible that they can add links to the event posting so that people can go to an individual class, since we are editing each class individually. However, once again, that would be up to web development, and none of us want to speak for another office and volunteer them for something. I mean, the only time that happens is when they're talking about, well, social media can get it out there.
No comment.
So we have about 15 minutes still scheduled in this, and I haven't seen any other questions come in the chat, but want to make sure we give a chance to anyone who might be quiet or holding on to a question to answer to ask any questions they might have here.
I mean, I'll throw out kind of a random but tough one. What's the most difficult situation you faced as Seneschal, and how did you handle it?
Ooh,
Do you want me to stop recording before you answer that question?
Yeah,
Let me ask
that needs
that.
to. Please.
Let me, before we go back to that one, um, are there any good tips or tricks? Because somebody brought up earlier about trying to get people to run events, to what are some good things to offer or to help new autocrats who might feel a bit out of their depth or might feel a little bit hesitant to volunteer to run an event?
Asta.
I've got one right now where I have got a brand new autocrat working with a very seasoned autocrat as the co-autocrat. And that seems to work very well.
I think it works well if the person who's new respects the information that the person who is not new is going
Yes,
to give to them.
that's very important. But they chose each other, so it was that kind of thing.
Excellent. On that question, I am going to officially thank everyone for their time for this question and answer session. I'm going to stop the recording in just a moment. Once again, thank you all for attending Stags Con 2026, Seneschal Meeting Room. There is no closing court or anything official. I will be sticking around to keep this room open until everyone decides that they've had enough of us and have decided to run away cackling into the night. We thank you all for your dedicated service, your kindness, and your willingness to put up with all the craziness that is the SCA. Thank you.